read from the minutes from the meeting that evening. I think it will provide with some further information. So it's part of Roundtable, which is wonderful when we do have people contribute and pipe up and participate in Roundtable. A lengthy discussion about fire district boundaries continued, and it was noted that the historical boundaries may have changed without the department's knowledge or input. There was concern on changes in the area of Chester Grant, Millet Lake, and Lakewood Drive. It was discussed that there is a process outlined in the Rural District Act pertaining to changes in fire district boundaries, which can be different from the municipal electoral boundaries. The three chiefs affected by the fire district boundary lines will have further discussion on possible automatic aid protocols in these areas. Councillor Connors agreed to work with staff to investigate further the reasoning behind the boundary changes and report back at the next FAC meeting in March. And then the motion was moved and seconded and unanimous, all in favor, support. So at the meeting, I was a little bit like the deer in headlights, if you will, not knowing the reasoning behind maybe why the boundaries were changed, who was behind those changes, what the reasoning were, and so on, what the reasoning was, and so on. But again, that's neither here nor there, that's in the past. So the unanimous discussion, support and discussion at that table was to look into this and to bring it to Municipal Council. And I indicated that part of the role that the two councillors would have on the FAC, along with the support of staff, would be to bring this to council and to move it along, to move it forward, to investigate and move it forward. So I, receiving the agenda last weekend, was pleasantly surprised to see that it was on the agenda, because I had not had any conversations with staff around where this might be at this point in the juncture. Certainly a couple of weeks coming out of that meeting, I chatted briefly and had conversations with staff, but again, on the weekend reading this, was happy to see this. So I'm assuming that there could be some movement on this, and so now I will probably look to staff or to the warden. You may have had conversations with staff.
I have. I mean, they've been asking me for this for years, but there were so many other issues to deal with that it just wasn't a big one. And how it got changed, I don't know. I thought it had something to do with when we did the boundary changes in the districts, and the Chester Basin line moved up that Grant Road a ways, but I don't really know how it happened. But I can say that the Chester Basin's been receiving the tax funds from it anyway, so there's no impact to anybody. It's just confusing. They don't understand. They're getting the money. The houses are being taxed in District 4. It's going to District 4 Fire Department. And it makes no sense for Chester to be the first responder. And as long as they agree, I'm happy.
My understanding, it's a mapping error. It was when the municipal electoral boundaries were changed.
Somehow this got changed.
That changed the response boundary for Chester Basin in that one area. But it never actually changed no formal change was made to take those properties from Chester Basin and give them to Chester. It was a mapping error in the response stuff, so it should be a fairly easy fix.
Okay, so cutting to the chase.
That would make no sense for Chester
to try to get to
be the first
to get to Millet Lake before Chester Basin. No. And they aren't anyway. But whatever.
Okay.
It's just they just want to correct it to be what it actually is.
Okay, so that's wonderful news. So very simple fix. Cutting to the
it should be about
So getting to right to what Tara just said. Certainly on the drive home that evening, I travel when I certainly can with my department, or we travel together, doesn't matter who drives. So the commission representative, the department representative, and I were traveling back from Chester, from Forest Heights home to New Ross. And we were chatting about this boundary line change in between the New Ross and Chester Basin area. and there are no homes, and there are no commercial structures. So really, there's no tax implications in terms of property assessments, but really when it comes to a vehicle or medical responses, because there could be somebody that, you know, pulls over and has a medical response or runs off the road, things like that. So that would be the only implication in that particular area. Sorry, Sam.
I just have a thought. So this is between Chester Basin and Chester?
And also New Ross.
Okay, so so Chester I understand, but both New Ross and Chester Basin are commissions. And
Commissions, yes, correct.
And they would have boundaries when they were created. So how does this impact?
My understanding is that the change they're asking for is what was described in the original creation of the district.
Just somehow it got
Just
straightened
a
out.
mapping error, is my understanding. A mapping error happened so that the response times that were given to the dispatch is different than what so it's not a physical
not a change in
change. It's
boundaries.
not a change in boundaries. It's a mapping error.
Yeah, I mean, Doctor's Brook is the boundary line between Tina and I. You know, that just, it always has been.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Somebody want to move that we recommend the request?
Certainly, I'll move that.
Second that. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
I had a hand up for a question.
Oh, sorry, Derek, I missed that.
We're not changing the boundaries.
No.
So it says to change the boundary line.
We're just putting them where.
No, I'm saying, I don't think the motion's correct. We're not changing the boundary. But
It's
based on
to
what
change the
Kevin said,
response
the map.
areas. the
I
map.
agree, but I think the motion should reflect what we're doing. We are not changing the boundaries. The boundaries haven't changed, and they're in mapping.
We'll change the mapping to make it correct.
I just want the motion to be correct.
That's what the motion is.
That was my motion, yes.
Yeah. So what's on the floor is not correct. It will have to be changed to reflect what's happening.
Yeah,
Thank you. Now, I vote in favor.
okay, good, we're done. Well,
Yes.
They get it right.
That's why you're a lawyer, we're not. Okay.
You think I'm not paying attention?
Title Drive, you're all here, or at least they think that that's who you are.
Wow.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've got work trouble now.
Oh, no. This is the beginning of a much better encounter.
Let's see, Morning, how you doing anyway?
We're doing well. Nice little drive down. Beautiful area.
I've never been so cold in my life. Really appreciate you putting out the winter format for us all. We do appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yesterday wasn't a real nice day. Anyway, floor is yours.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you for this opportunity to bring forward this proposal on behalf of the Title Thrive Consortium. My name is Nicholas Val. I'm the founding CEO for Cone Valley. I'm joined by one of my colleagues, Jasmine Allen and Benjamin Slotnick, along with his colleague, Dave Gray. And we are here representing the
285 companies.
Yes. And as a group, we would like to address one of the challenges that we've had brought to our attention by Coastal Action in the Mahone Bay area around the Wild Rose Park with a very unique solution along with a funding proposal for it. Actually, if you could go back, I believe Emily is the one controlling the slides.
sorry.
Yes. Just a little bit of a background on who we are. So we are a startup based out of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Been in operation for 5 years, been around the innovation ecosystem. Our primary area of focus is providing nature-based solutions to challenges near and far and around the ocean. We have a lot of expertise in regards to environmental technical work as well as algae polyculture. I'm a entrepreneur by background, but I work with marine biologists and engineers to get the...
What do you sell?
Sorry?
What do you sell?
Oh, well, we'll get to that. If we could have the next slide, please. So we have also some fantastic advisors that are able to provide the necessary expertise in order to deploy this technology that we are looking to bring forward to you. But next slide, please. Before we get into that, I also want to give Ben and his team the floor so that they can talk about who they are and where they're coming from.
So we're a separate entity. We're Liliana Technologies, and we also provide a lot of climate solutions to marine and sort of waterways. We're a startup that's based in the United States. We're also here in Nova Scotia, and so you could call us multinational now. But I'm the CEO and founder. Benjamin Slotnick, Dave Gray, who's by my side, he's our director of operations, and we also have Michael Beeman, who's been tenured faculty in the University of California system. Together, we've come up with the right solution to clean waterways that allows us to remove meaningful volumes of carbon from our atmosphere while we remove that nitrogen and the phosphorus. What attracted us to this region was the fact there's some wastewater treatment facilities. And we want to do what we can to make sure that your water in these bays right here remain clean. And that'll be the Liliana element of this whole package. If you go to the next slide, we're also backed by some very thoughtful advisors. Bill Bartling, from a regulatory and operations perspective, he's well-versed in how you get projects to go forward. He used to run all regulatory matters for the state of California for oil, gas, and geothermal. Matt really helps with financials. Mike, our communications advisor, very useful in terms of how do you discuss, and we're soon to add a fourth from a local university, Cape Breton University. And next slide.
So, as a group, and thank you for the question, what are we selling? What are we looking to do? I spoke to a challenge earlier about coastline erosion and the impacts that may have in the surrounding area, especially along the Wild Rose Park. There's some new infrastructure that's being placed in that park, and the last thing you guys want to see is that infrastructure fall into the ocean, as is a very common problem across the Maritimes. But we're going a step further. We're looking to create a comprehensive solution. So next slide, please.
And that's why we came together.
Yes. So to Ben's point, there is a wastewater treatment plant along the river near the Wild Rose Park that has the potential to create algal blooms. There's been some historic reporting of algal blooms in and around the area, and we want to ensure that we're able to gather the necessary data to make sure that we are bringing the right solution to this challenge. What we are proposing, and in the next slide, I believe we start getting into what Liliana's tech does.
Yeah, so from what Liliana provides, working with our oceans and working with the life of our oceans is the best way to remove nutrients effectively. We don't put some synthetic polymer or chemical in the waters because that can have unexpected outcomes or can potentially lead to invasive species. We do not do that. What we do is we identify what is the fishermen can fish so that anybody around this area that relies on a nice clean sort of set of waterways and bays can live their life knowing that that can be supplemented. Diatoms are one of many types of these microscopic organisms, and they tend to be the best ones and most efficient ones at removing that waste that can come out of wastewater treatment plants or agricultural runoff, etc. All they need is sunlight. So once you put them in the water, they grow really fast, exponentially. So like the trees that you see out here, they won't double in size in 48 hours, but diatoms will. And so luckily, what we can do here and why we've become a carbon dioxide removal company is when you have these grow, that carbon bonds with those wastewater nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. And when they die, they sink and become marine sediment. And that's why we have an image on the right-hand side here to show that they'll not only grow really fast, but when they sink, they'll become part of that sediment. And then, in essence, when we drive our cars around, when we burn the gas and the oil that we do, we're putting that oil and that gas back into the oceans the way it came from. Because almost all oil comes from marine sediment, just like that. And so putting it all back into the system in a loop, in essence, we're giving back to nature, and we're putting nature back to the way it would have been had humans never been here. So next slide. In terms of some more detail, with and without Liliana, on top is where you can actually have some environmental risk. It's the same, we're never going to be able to control how nutrients enter the world's waterways through rivers and through runoff. So you always have high nutrient inputs where you have human activity. But on the top, where you see that red, if you don't do much, you run the risk of oxygen depletion or oxygen in the water column decreasing substantially. And so what we'll do here is ensure that the healthy algae will not consume all of that oxygen. And then when we showed that previous slide where you can have harmful algae, that harmful algae is what can consume the oxygen. And that's what can lead to fish kills, that's what can lead to questionable mussel and shellfish activity, etc. Where we come in on the bottom is that algae that sinks will not decompose as much. And when it doesn't decompose, all that oxygen stays. And it makes it for a much more durable and healthy ecosystem that'll be better not just for the fish to live there, but for anybody in this community that wants to capitalize on any of this. So we bring jobs and we bring the possibility of larger fishing catches as part of the solution as well. There's a lot of other environmental co-benefits and economic benefits to the local community when we enter a new region. Mm-hmm. Next slide. And so to visualize, these are different time steps. Say time step 1 is year 1, time step 2 is year 2, time step 3 is year 3. When we build up the sediment with the diatoms that we put out there, the volume of how much accumulates will increase. And so your sedimentation rate, which will be say 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters per year, all the carbon and all those nasty pollutants will end up being part of the nutrients and stay without coming back into the system. And so you just think about it as kind of like a tree farm. The trees grow taller, the sediment grows thicker, but you just can't see it because it's under the water. It's the same kind of concept, and that's why you put it in an image like this.
Is that a simulation or is that a real photograph?
It's an image of the same image at different time steps, and so it just sort of gives you the perspective that through time, sediment will accumulate.
That's not specific to Western Shore, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, but it is a real.
Yeah. And it's not specific to any specific location, but if you let time go by,
Yeah, that's sort of just.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Next slide, please. And so what we do here is we actually build out a local facility. We manufacture what are called photobioreactors. These provide light mimicking the sun, and we push air into them. And those photobioreactors that we provide allow the algae that would be the best ones to work with to thrive. And once they're ready to be dispersed, we then will move that algae through boat activity to the right location in coastal areas such as where we're at here. And once that life will thrive and sink, it'll become part of that marine sediment. So one of the things that we'd be looking at doing here, if we were to go forward with this project, is identifying a warehouse or some type of 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 square foot facility to build this and hire some local help to bring some jobs into the region to be able to do this effectively. One of the things that we really like here is we like working with the local stakeholders and the local people that know the waterways. You guys know the waterways much better than we do. We don't want to start from scratch and just sort of learn where we take our vessel. If there's local individuals or boat captains that know that there might be a sandbar here and you want to avoid it, we'd rather work with them and capitalize on their knowledge of the area already to make it simpler for us and also to make it better for you guys.
You may be going to answer this question later, but if you build this facility and you're growing this algae or whatever it is, and it's to put into the water over the Western Shore, I mean, we have more than one sewer that empties into the harbor. Would that same algae be useful in those locations?
Generally speaking, part of the recon work that we'd be doing to start the project would be to see what species are there and identifying which of those species would be the most useful. And given the close proximity to what we see with the multiple localities that would work, we should be able to utilize 1 or 2 species, like monocultures, like a single species solution, to be able to do just that.
And then the other one.
Would you realize that with multiple aspects coming in, you can't just put a Band-Aid on one and hoping that it'll fix? So the short answer, yes, we look at that, we make sure that we have the right stuff. And basically in the waste treatment industry, it's the same nutrients or bad stuff going out. So simple, it's yes, sir, that's what we do.
Okay, thank you.
And next slide please. Here's an example of we have a couple different versions of the photobioreactors that we build. And so depending on how big the project were to get and how much volume we would need, there's a couple different options. What you'll find is most groups out there don't build these, and they don't get mass produced, so they're really, really expensive. But they're also not mobile, and a lot of the ones that get built are made out of glass, so they can crack and create other problems. Here, we need mobile ones, so we can move them around and get them to the right spot. And so we build fit-for-purpose photobioreactors that will function as they should. that's what we'd be bringing here. Next slide.
So how that ties into the overall proposal is these diatoms not only are removing and preventing cyanobacteria, which is those harmful algal blooms, but those diatoms are a feed source for what we are looking to build along the Wild Rose Park as a breakwater structure. It would be, as you can see, under the water level, unintrusive to the local marine traffic, but most importantly, it would provide a way to, let me take a step back. What you're looking at is essentially a speed bump. That speed bump is going to reduce any wave action that's going to hit your coastline and reduce the amount of loss of sediment from that coastline. And the reason why we're pairing up with dense diatom technologies, we want to make that a living speed bump, not just a armor rock construction that's going to look hideous and everyone's going to want to get rid of, but something that is made with a natural growing material. Oysters is what we are looking to build it out of. Oyster shells are very robust, they're resilient, and the oysters themselves provide the first level of nutrients and feed for other species to be brought back into the area. They can become feed for other animals like lobsters or mussels that have been lost or not seen as prominently in and around the region. This would also allow the speed bump to continue to grow. So once it's deployed, it can multiply over decades, creating something that doesn't need to be maintained as much and actually would protect further along the coastline. That's the feed aspect coming into it. Next slide, please. The material we're looking to build this speed bump out of is called oceanite. It's a UNESCO certified material that has been proven. It's been deployed multiple times. The company that builds this is called Reef Life, and they are both based in Canada and the United States. They have materials that have already been deployed in and around the Halifax area to great success. And it's also a material that's really great at having other animals grow on top of it, which is ideal for creating that living reef structure. Next slide, please. So there's a cascading effect of benefits that this consortium is bringing together. As mentioned, we have some funding that we're also looking to utilize from the Ocean Supercluster. What actually genesis this consortium was their call for climate solutions, which we passed the expression of interest stage. We are now in the application stage. We have to submit that tomorrow. And the benefits, as mentioned, in terms of what we are looking to do is protection of about 500 meters of coastline. We will have continuous monitoring in terms of showing both biological and sedimentary and reporting that back to not only the municipality, but working with Coastal Action, we would like to relay that to the further community to showcase how this can work as a continuing benefit. Reductions in not only the amount of waste in the water and the amount of CO2 that can be taken out, but there's also a member of this consortium, Cook Solutions, that is reviewing premium reductions in terms of both insurance for getting a policy or reducing the policy's premiums, which could be of added benefit not only to the park, but to the surrounding area. And the total cost is about 1.2 million, and as mentioned, we are looking to bring our own funding into this. What we're looking to gather from the Municipality of Chester is a letter of support and your permission to proceed forward with Coastal Action in gathering permits on deploying this as a solution for the Wild Rose Park. That letter of support really is nothing more than just a one-pager saying you've reviewed it, you understand, and this seems like an appropriate solution to the challenge we face. And next slide, please.
And before we go there, the carbon removal piece, whether the municipality would be more comfortable with carbon removal or with bioremediation services, it means the same thing, because the carbon bonds with the nitrogen and the phosphorus. And so what we'd be providing there is 2,500 tons of carbon removal over the duration of the project, which will be up to 2 years, or up to 3 years, I mean.
Yeah.
And so just to make that point as a clear emphasis, 2,500 tons is a lot of carbon.
So how long would this project last? That usually 2 to 3 years? Like
2.5 years is the total time frame of the Ocean Supercluster funding. And during that timeline, if I may just use as a jumping off point, we've already done a quick scan through the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities for different funding programs that may be applicable to this, and these were some of the ones we had earmarked throughout the entire time frame. So I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I just wonder, like, what happens after that 2 or 3 years? Like, where are we then?
Depending on the company, there will be continuous, not continuous monitoring, but monitoring that would come back to make sure the breakwater, I would assume, would stay in the right position. For Liliana, if we were to go forward with this project, we would continually come back at least once a quarter to take measurements and just make sure the sediments are there, and or if there's interest in, if it turns out that there would be a need for a recurring project moving forward, we'd stay for as long as necessary.
Well, like, I get where you build
The structure, yeah.
the structure, but what about the little creatures that you have to keep going?
So basically, as we move forward, you notice it's like a 2+ year project.
Yeah.
Part of that is the way we all work together is to make sure the nutrients are there to help start the grow. The project as it's built, it goes over that time. It becomes, if you will, self-efficient to where it's feeding, it's going through itself and going along.
Over time, it sustains itself.
Yes, it sustains itself. It's critical to make sure in the first year.
I just want to know what it means to us all 10 years from now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really the mindset with this whole project. It's not only increase of sediment back in the area, increase of biological activity in terms of oysters and other animals. It's a growing structure. So as it's in place, it's not only building onto itself, but creating a cascading effect.
And as always, you can reach back and talk to any of the companies and compete. You can also look up the structure that he provided and where it's been placed already, and look at that project, and it will show, how it's grown over the time to help you move forward into that as well and be more informed.
So have you done any testing in the harbors yet to determine whether or not those little creatures are there already or not there already, or any of that kind of stuff?
From Liliana's perspective, we've done it not here, but in various bays and estuaries in the United States, and we're trying to bring that technology here.
Okay.
And so this is sort of building off of a long sort of list of recon.
And with our process, the diatoms, the natural life, has been there since the dormant dinosaurs, if not longer. So we know it's there. It's just a matter of finding the right species that are local.
There are also a few oyster farmers in the area, and we wouldn't use any non-native oysters for this project.
Yeah, well, that'd be important.
Yeah.
Adela?
Actually, Deborah,
Oh, there's
so
okay,
you go ahead, buddy.
You want a letter of support? To whom?
It would be addressed to the Tidal Thrive Consortium for the Ocean Supercluster to review as part of the application.
What type of federal or provincial permits do you need to do this? Do you know?
3 that we know of. Coastal Action has done a similar type of project with a living shoreline in the Mahone Bay area. That included a parks provisional permit, a DFO federal permit, and a navigational waterway permit.
Navigable waters.
Yes.
That's federal as well.
Federal as well, yes.
And is there a project ongoing in Mahone Bay right now?
There is ongoing. I think it's now in their 2nd year. It is a little bit different in terms of the both look and the application, but the purpose is still the same. It's a nature-based solution to prevent the loss of their shorelines.
Beautiful project.
Yeah, I'm from the area. I guess what I'd like to ask is, so you're talking about where the treatment plant comes out. Okay. In regards to where Wild Rose Park is,
It's a long ways from
it's a long ways away. So I don't know if you know that. So you're saying you're going to put the system where the outflow goes from the wastewater plant, right? Well, Wild Rose Park is a long ways away from there. So, and I know, speaking to Coastal Action, that there was an algae bloom out by Oak Island. And that was their biggest concern. So I don't know if that doesn't make any sense to me.
it's a great
wastewater treatment plant that we've been looking at on a map is actually really close to Oak Island. It is pretty.
I know, I've lived there all my life, I know where it is. Yeah.
So it's
across the road from it.
But where the wave action comes in, and where we've looked at from a lot of the initial part, would be just north of Oak Island. And so that's right in the distribution of what we'd anticipate would be the right locality for the input of the diatoms to.
So where's the locale that you're looking at there?
Well, actually, that's one thing I want to be very clear about. There's still some historical modeling, historical data that we want to gather, some modeling that we want to do, and this is all part of the whole permitting process. As you pointed out, it's not all within the same area, but there may be some movement within the waves that will push it into the same area. So we want to be extra sure when we're putting this forward that we have taken all that into account.
The other part is you've heard her say about the knowledge of the locals. That's where people like yourself come in and say, yeah, it looks great on a map, but really this is what we're looking at. So it's taking the input and working with y'all as well. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
If I may, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that there's a bit of a misunderstanding. The breakwater would be closer to Wildrose Park, like that's where that would be. And the diatoms would come in because the waves would, our idea is that the nutrients would get pushed towards Wildrose Park.
So are you talking about the breakwater that's by the Oak Island Resort?
They're talking about their underwater breakwater.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
underwater,
we would be.
You won't even see this.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were, because there's a breakwater by Oak Island.
No, it's just a raise in the bottom, like it says, speed bump.
I see what
Yeah,
you're
so
saying.
I heard
Okay.
you mention the breakwater being by the treatment plant. That's not what we're doing. The breakwater would be in front of Wildrose Park. And then the idea would be that the nutrients would be kind of everywhere in that area. So although it's not, the diatoms wouldn't be directly beside the treatment plant, it would still aid in the removing the nutrients from the water.
So, and I see you talked a lot about erosion there. Anyway, is this deployed anywhere else beside, in Nova Scotia beside Mont Bay?
There have been reef life structures deployed in the Bedford Basin and the Halifax Harbor. That was a joint project with the Clean Foundation. And there have been other types of materials similar to this deployed throughout Nova Scotia.
Now, is there an erosion issue over there?
Not that I'm, at Wildrose?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, erosion takes a long time, but, I mean, I know they've the only issue that's there that I see when you get a lot of wave action, and we've talked about that as a municipality, put a couple more rows of rocks there.
Yeah, because the waves are coming higher all the time.
There may be more of an erosion problem where the Chester plant is.
Pardon me?
There may be more of an erosion problem where the Chester plant is.
Well, as I say, it's talking about working both on erosion and algae bloom. And I know Coastal Action has monitored that down there, and we actually looked at it. If it was anything from the treatment plant and everything that from the testing that we're well within regulations of the province, correct?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I had, Alan.
Andre?
Thank you for coming in. It's always interesting to see what's out there. I presume that you'll probably be speaking with other municipal units as well. Like, I mean, you're in the business of trying to get your companies, grounded here, and you gotta find somebody to buy your product, basically. So.
That's correct. We've got a pilot site set up in PEI. Coastal erosion is a massive challenge out there.
Yeah.
One of the consortium partners, the one who's donating the oyster seed, for example, Atlantic Aqua Farms has 4 different sites, one out in Georgetown, one here in London, all of which are facing very similar challenges.
Yeah, I see 2 sort of separate, and you've connected them, but issues here like the erosion piece, which you can solve a whole bunch of ways. This is one way. It dovetails with this carbon sequestering kind of technology, and then you have other ways of dealing with erosion. Some are just brute force, rocks and stuff like that. And, then you can do living shorelines and all this stuff. It's good. And then the carbon sequestering piece, we often, I wouldn't say often, but we from time to time have folks come in and talk to us about, new technologies we see to do these things like sequestering carbon or energy projects or whatever. And I'll be frank with you, from my perspective, not the council, but one of the challenges I think you will face is that sequestering of carbon is not directly in the mandate of municipalities. So like it's a provincial and federal mandate, and oftentimes when we have funding agreements, like if we're doing some sort of work on a treatment plant or whatever, and we have funding come from a federal government or whatever, they may place conditions on that funding that sort of make us, pursue technologies like that. But generally speaking, unless we have really super ambitious politicians that want to sort of do that big boy stuff of getting involved with, issues that are usually not municipal ones, then you normally don't see projects like this undertaken. So I've found in my time at this table that we tend to be a bit of a pragmatic bunch of dealing with the day-to-day, like let's get the garbage picked up, let's get the sewer treated, and let's do these things. And not to say that your technology wouldn't be an excellent addition to our existing sewer treatment technologies, but we're not scientists. So, it's hard for us to evaluate different technologies. Yours wouldn't be the only one out there, and determine which is the best fit for us. So we look to other layers of government that have that resource, and the way they communicate with us is by placing permitting conditions on us. You have to have this much TSS, this much VOD, whatever, so that's like the inputs we see. And, we're just looking at a checklist, basically. Do we have this? Okay, we're doing what we're supposed to do for the environment or whatever, whether it's right or wrong. We really don't 100% know. I mean, we sort of do, but we're not scientists. As a human being, I see the value in the kind of activity you're doing here. But I think that's a challenge you will face, I think, when you deal with municipalities, is because we don't directly have a requirement. In fact, once we get off of the land, it's actually not even our area. So sequestering carbon stuff in the ocean, is that really our job? Not to say, I'm a human being, and of course it's all of our jobs, but the people that fund us through their taxes, they expect us to stick to our mandate.
Right.
So where I live, thanks for that. That's a really good set of comments. I'm on your side of the table where I live. I'm an elected official. I am a director on the local municipality board where I'm also there, and it's the exact same concepts in the same case. We don't have a mandate for carbon removal there as well. We have a mandate to make sure the waterways that we do release are clean, and so we do get presentations similar to this sometimes from groups that want to sort of help with the remediation services. And so one of the reasons we were highlighting carbon removal versus bioremediation is it is sort of under our mandate to make sure the system stays remediated where we would live. And if the remediation services element of what we can provide would be more aligned with the component, it wouldn't change our technology. It's just that whether you want to focus on the carbon or want to focus on the waste that would come out of the water as part of the system cleanup, then we're open to either side. It's the same tech. In addition to that, there are other technologies that are out there. And the EPA in the United States just put out a huge publication showing that a lot of those technologies are not working. And a lot of what groups have been trying to do to get a lot of these nutrients out of the waterways, it shows that there's negligible change. And as human advancement continues, those nutrients of nitrogen, phosphorus, ammonium, etc., they're only rising. And so the United States is having a detrimental problem with this. And I would assume that would be representative of almost everywhere else. And so there's an EPA report that we've just been sort of sinking our teeth into, because it just came out a couple weeks ago, that specified just that. And so we encourage an open discussion in showing that, but I think what you'll find is that what Liliana provides is not one of those technologies that the EPA is aware of. And what we're doing is different. And what differentiates our technology is really working with the life, the diatoms. And the groups out there are usually using some type of chemical solution where there's unexpected issues and a lot of negativity where they can't control what life comes, you know, and stuff like that. And so that, I think, is really what the.
Yeah, I agree with all your comments, sorry.
Yeah, that's.
I agree with all your comments, and I actually, you know, it's very interesting. Scientifically, it's, you know, I'd love to watch a documentary.
But yeah, one thing that's good with us coming in is what we believe is in education. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a biologist, but learning and seeing and looking at this has opened up my world. In that, to me, education is important. What you'll find is students now are learning what we do, how this works, how the ocean is in school, and being able to come in and partner and teach and opening up that part. Totally understand. Yeah, that's great over there. How does it really affect me? Honestly, that's how it is. As a government thing, that's really great. Are you selling me something? How's this work? How do I do this in my budget? There's a lot of questions. You know, right now we're coming in and saying, this is what we're doing. This is what we're looking at. Approval. Down the road, we can talk even more about how this can work, how this can offset, and other things along those lines as we partner and grow. You know, we're going to be here for 2+ years. And for us, we want to be here a lot longer, not only dealing with the issues here, but up and down the whole coast.
I guess if I can, where I was going to go with it is like from, I think normally like in a pragmatic way, we sort of think of our treatment plants as, you know, we get all the inputs of sewage in, and then, you know, what the regulator who we have to answer to looks for is what's coming out our tailpipe.
Exactly.
Essentially, and then so if we satisfy those criteria, what your system is doing is it's dealing with what, you know, even if we're within our, we're meeting the conditions of our approval, it's after the tailpipe we're cleaning up that. And that's I think the gap that as I see it is that because it's not within our mandate to deal with the after the tailpipe work. It's not to say it's not valid. It's not to say that, you know, as human beings, we shouldn't be doing that. It just, I think there's a regulatory gap here where, you know, we need the ocean supercluster to sort of put some pressure on the federal government, and if they feel like this is something important, they should be mandating that we deal with things after the tailpipe. Because right now, the conditions of our approvals are what comes as a tailpipe, what are those numbers? And if we satisfy that, then, you know, we check that box and we go on with the business of collecting people's garbage and doing other things.
Have you recently seen the news outlet that was talking about San Diego and one of their river plant causing issues? And part of that is if you don't do the due diligence, if you're not looking at this and you're looking down the road, things like this could happen. Not saying it is. But in that, you know, you have to do your due diligence. Yes, you have to say, and forgive me, I've worked for the U.S. government for a long, long time, and there's times that we're so focused on this and like, oh yeah, that can wait. When I was growing up, there was a little bitty hole in the ozone. 40 years later, it's a huge, huge hole. We can be so focused on this, but not looking at cause and effect. So, didn't mean to interrupt you. Thank you.
Derek.
What is it, I want you to slide out of 1.2 million, is that what the project cost?
That is the project cost, yes.
And where's that money coming from?
We're working with the Ocean Supercluster. They're able to cover about 42.5%. And we are looking at other avenues of funding, such as insurance brokers, as well as these potential funding streams that you see on the screen right now.
But you're not asking us for money.
Not right now.
Not right now.
I love it.
Well, that's why I asked you 3 years when you leave. You know?
All we're asking for right now is the letter of support. Is this actually something the community wants? And
Except the letter of support means ultimately you want money. And that's where we have some difficulty, because it's not our mandate, so we need to get some direction on that.
let me clarify. We're not asking you to put, you know, we want to pay for this. We want a dollar value. We're more looking for market pull, that this is a challenge that's being faced, that this is a technology of interest that could be applicable in your jurisdiction.
I get that.
Yeah.
But the letter of support means a lot more than just, yeah, we like it, and I'll go ahead and do it. There's going to be an ask at the end of the day, likely, of some sort.
differentiating it from, because letter of support, letter of intent usually get intermingled. There is no ask for capital in that letter of intent.
No, not right now.
No, not right now. In that letter of support, that is just supporting the project and the market whole. So essentially, this technology would be applicable to the challenges being faced in around the Wild Rose Park area, and we would like to support it. That's all.
Just
Change
questions,
first.
okay.
Sorry, so just a quick question around the potential funding slide that you have, and as it relates, I guess, to the overall, to the total budget proposed. Are you suggesting that you would be, or your group, or consortium of group, would be the applicant and would go through the process of application to each of those as they're proposed on the screen?
That's correct. So a lot of these are, you have to either be a First Nations group, a municipality, or
a municipality.
Or
Right.
not-for-profit, which Coastal Action would qualify for, and that's how they were able to get a lot of the funding done for the shoreline. So that is the current intent.
Current intent. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Sharon?
Well, I'm just wondering, like, if you do a project specifically for Wild Rose Park, I would assume that you're going to ask us for funding. It's our area. Is that how?
Because the ocean's not our area.
I know it isn't.
Until we have a clear idea of both what is being installed in regards to permits, it wouldn't be fair for us to ask you for funding or capital right now. The funding that we have been able to secure with the Ocean Supercluster and what we've been able to find is sufficient. And if we are going to need to have those conversations, we're happy to have them, but that's not what we're looking to discuss at this point.
So somebody else asked me a question. So if you build this here speed bump out in front of Wild Rose Park, that's the intent would be to protect our infrastructure.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know it's not our problem, but I don't personally have an issue with writing a letter of support and letting me go do it, because it does appear as though it'll make our harbors better, and I can see that, not the breakwater part, but I can see using those little critters in other bays where we have sewer outlets, which, I mean, people are constantly complaining about the quality of water, whether it's our problem or not, So, but anyway, that's only me. We do have a representative of Coastal Action. Do you have anything you want to add?
You want to come up here?
Maybe she doesn't want to say anything. I don't know.
Maybe I'll just provide a little bit of context as to how we got involved and what we see our role as being in the project. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Brooke Nodding, and I'm Executive Director of Coastal Action. And Clean Valley reached out to us probably before the holidays just to broach the project. And they, at that time, they were looking for potential areas where this type of technology, this type of project might be a good idea if we were aware of any particular areas. And actually the first area that came to mind for us was the Wild Rose Park area, just because we had been in conversations with Chad previously about, and we were looking at it as a shoreline protection project. So we were looking at.
So the speed bump was your.
That was out of so the diatoms and the Liliana component of the project was kind of introduced to us afterwards. When we first thought, I was looking at them like kind of a natural infrastructure type project to protect coastlines. And so in conversations in previous years with Chad, we had been talking about the fact that the municipality, after every storm, you have to re-armor that particular piece of land. So it was becoming costly to the municipality. And we were thinking of, I had been talking to Chad about the possibility of looking at a potential natural infrastructure project to protect that coastline. And so that was why this particular area came to be, was that I had proposed it as maybe a potential area for this project. So for us, how we would be involved, so as Nick had said, that we would be involved in terms of helping them navigate the permitting process based on our experience with our Mahone Bay project, with the living shoreline that we're doing there, and helping to connect the stakeholders and the education and awareness piece is kind of where we were asked to come into play. So that's just how we became involved. So at this point, I think, as Nick mentioned, they're just applying to this Ocean Supercluster grant. They're looking at potential locations, location for the project, and this was an area that I thought might be a fit.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
The Mahone Bay project, you're involved in that somewhat?
Yes, that is our project.
It's similar to this one, the same?
It is similar in the fact that it's an Asia-based solution. The technologies involved are different. So our project in Mahone Bay is a hybrid solution, which includes a breakwater and then the creation of a salt marsh, like a vegetated salt marsh, and then a vegetated bank and a berm on land. So it's kind of a 4-component hybrid solution in Mahone Bay.
That's because of the rising ocean.
That is for it. Yes, it's mostly for storm surge and impact. So Mahone Bay, for that particular project, is concerned about losing the infrastructure in front of the 3 churches. So they are losing quite a bit of land, which is jeopardizing the road along that area.
Yeah, major problem.
So where does it, as Andre said, where does the tailpipe from Mahone Bay sewer go? Where does it come out into the harbor?
So there is one that there's a couple, but the main one is down by the public water for Mahone Bay. So the project in Mahone Bay is not using like the diatom solution.
It's not cleaning the water,
It's not.
it's just preventing.
Yes, so it's not a
This is a
living.
2-step.
Right, so in our breakwater, it's just a rock breakwater. It's not a living breakwater that's being proposed here. So the project in Mahone Bay the intent was to protect the shoreline, not so much the water quality piece.
Okay.
So this project is kind of twofold. So it's the protection of the shoreline plus the water quality piece.
They go hand in hand with each other.
Yeah, this is just one more step in it.
They would be happy to work closer, get Mahone Bay with it.
Well, I don't know, I mean, it's a lot to think about. I mean, I don't see the problem because, I mean, if you can find all the funding to do it, put it in place, 3 years later, if we choose not to participate, we don't have to.
So your application where this letter of support would come as part of it, is that tomorrow? Did you see the deadline?
Tomorrow, 7 p.m.
So if we're gonna provide one, you need one now. Okay.
Pretty much.
I don't know what anybody else thinks, but it all sounds good.
Yeah, just know that we're gonna have to dig into it a little deeper before we actually open up our purse. But
Yeah.
I don't think that the letter is, as long as it's not committal, I don't have any issue with that.
That was my qualification.
Make it non-binding,
Well, that's right. All we're doing is supporting your application at this point. If it gets more complex than that, you'll be back and we'll have a chat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do we have a deeper dive?
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it sounds like it's a good thing for the Wild Rose Park piece, for the breakwater part. And if you can help clean up the ocean at no cost to us at this moment in time, I don't have a problem with that either. So, what do we want to do, people? Somebody make a motion so I can sign it, because I gotta sign it before I leave the building today, apparently.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
The man himself.
discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Well, we'll see what happens then.
Thank you guys, we really appreciate you so much.
I can have if you want to do your own template of the letter of support, A-OK.
If you have one already,
You can get one, yes.
yes, you send it to them, because I gotta sign it before I leave this building, I imagine.
So I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Sooner the better.
Yeah.
Do you have?
I will need an email, please.
Okay. I will get you. I'll be right back.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break, yeah.